Hello lovely listener, and welcome to the Aardvark Swift podcast. I'm James Bowers, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Aardvark Swift. Throughout this series, we'll be chatting to game studios, initiatives, and industry professionals about all things video games. From tips on how to get into this line of work, studio cultures, and projects to get involved in. This month, I'm actually the host. Huzzah! Our podcast is with Viki Freeman and Jasper of Team17, a fantastic Yorkshire-based studio behind games such as Worms and Overcooked. It was a real pleasure for me to go back to my hometown of Wakefield and chat to them both about expansion plans, how they juggled the identity of being an in-house studio as well as a publishing label, and we delve into some of their studio initiatives, such as the open support network for their staff. So I'm here with Viki Freeman and Jasper Barnes at Team17, and would you guys just like to introduce yourselves and what you do here?
So I'm Jasper. I'm the talent acquisition manager here at Team17, which essentially is a glorified title for recruitment. I run the recruitment process for the two development studios in Wakefield and Manchester, and also the commercial offices down in Nottingham. So everything bar graduate roles, which I think Viki's about to talk about, everything upwards from that is my responsibility.
I'm Viki, and I'm the HR business partner. So I cover everything and anything to do with the employees, generally speaking. So I was Jasper before Jasper came. So for the last 2 years I was the internal recruiter, and then merged into my HR BP role in December last year. So my role consists of employee relations, diversity inclusivity, engagement wellness programs, retention, attrition, all of that. It's quite all-encompassing. It's hard to really pinpoint what it is I do. That's a little gist.
Yeah. A very busy calendar is what that results in.
Rather busy,
yeah.
Busy.
And how did you both get into the industry?
Well, mine was by accident, actually.
Yeah.
Me and Jasper talk all the time about kind of moving from an existing skill base into games rather than just starting your career in games. So I'd worked in recruitment for about 11-ish, 12 years, and I took a sabbatical, and after about 6 months I was bored stiff, and someone just happened to mention that this role was going, well, it was actually Jasper's role, the talent management role, and initially it was only a part-time position. So the 3 days morphed into 5, which morphed into my new role as it is now. So yeah, by accident really, but it's been a real eye-opener. I did play games as a kid, so I'm not a complete gamer virgin, but it's something that I kind of put down for a decade or so, and now I'm in it, I've got a whole newfound appreciation for the industry. It's a whirlwind, but it's a good one.
It is, fun to be part of. I suppose my entrance was more targeted than that, so I did also work in recruitment outside of the industry, a mixture of agency side and also in-house, and then after doing that for probably 4 years or so, I was based in deepest, darkest Devon as well, so there was none of this industry really at the time down there, and I kind of had a bit of I call it a quarter-life crisis type thing, where I thought, is this what I want to do? Is this the sort of company I want to work for? Is this, and started on this whole kind of thought process about what my passions, what do I enjoy, and gaming really was the answer. So I definitely aimed big. I was very fortunate with my first job. I landed at one of the Ubisoft studios.
Okay.
And that was purely based on the fact that at the time my favourite game was Far Cry 3. I loved it. I played it all the time. I thought it was a fantastic story. So I thought, aim big, why not? And yeah, just really, at every stage really, it just felt like I got by on a wing and a prayer really. The initial phone call, then the Skype interview, then the on-site interview, and then it gets to an offer. So mine was, I guess more targeted than Viki's. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I had this ambition. Didn't think I was going to get it because I assumed that games was huge. I mean, it is hugely competitive. So I'm very grateful for it. But I think that something that, I guess on the back of what Viki was saying, something I only appreciated after I joined the industry was how serious the industry is. I think as a gamer, you kind of assumed that it was just a bunch of people making games in their garages and sheds, and it's kind of very, very low key and not much happens. And then when you join a studio, again, like I said, I was fortunate with a huge publisher where there's hundreds of people in a studio working on this combined project together, the events that we go to and the things that the industry supports. But yeah, I was I think more directed, more deliberate, but still just luck. I think at the time it was very fortunate.
Yeah, I do feel very lucky every day, as cheesy as it sounds, because you kind of can't believe there are jobs like this. Though,
it shouldn't be work, really, should it? It's not. Shouldn't have to be paid for it, and things like
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But honestly, I've always grafted, and kind of felt like there was something missing, and I think having that time out of work to kind of really understand what it was that I wanted, didn't realise what it was until I worked here. So coming to work yesterday is always a pleasure. There's not a day where I think, I can't be bothered
Yeah.
to go in. Let's throw a sickie. Never.
That's good.
In fact, I didn't have a sick day at all last year, so that just proves it.
That's impressive.
And I've always sought out companies that believe in their brand. I've always worked for independents, and this is independent but on a different scale. But they really believe in their brand, and you come to work and you believe in the brand, and it becomes part of you in your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a job, really.
No.
It's not. I think it's something that you definitely find. Obviously, we're both on more support side in the studio. We've got hundreds of developers, but we work in those sorts of functions. And I think it's quite a common thing that you do find that people have had that corporate life before they come into this industry. So, like, I used to be suited and booted every day for work, wear a tie, shirt, like all iron and all the stuff like that. And well, yeah, I suppose. And so, yeah, coming into this industry and realising that like you can wear what you want, do what you want, like the inclusivity here to be who you want to be and present yourself however you want is fantastic. And I think that's something on the support side. I think the majority of people I speak to, they have had that corporate past, and then they've broken into it, and so the appreciation is, I wouldn't say higher than developers, because developers also love games and the project and the creativity, and they've spent years training to do their craft as well. But I think it's definitely as strong as them, even though we're not working directly on the games ourselves.
Yeah. Sort of the back in your mind fear of don't send me back.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my god, yeah, like I throw out all my ties.
Claw marks on the walls on the way out. Yeah.
Awful.
I think the devs are like even luckier than we are, because this is actually something that they've trained to do and now do what they love to do. So it's again another kind of hobbyist job.
Yes.
Where your passion is your job. We're trying to avoid that word because it's a cliche, but
passion is
true.
thrown about a lot because there's so much passion, so it almost becomes nondescript.
Yeah,
it's not that it doesn't exist; it exists so commonly that there's just it's almost not.
Why we're mentioning it when it's a given, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. This is it.
We're trying to find different ways of using a word or descript to
capture that, but it's
just
the industry.
Yeah, but it is the industry.
Yeah,
it covers all, doesn't it? It's cover all.
So that's how we got into the games industry.
If you weren't working at Team17, even if it's not something you'd be particularly good at, where do you think you'd be?
Do I have to start playing the theme tune now?
Yeah, so I guess I've got to. Yeah, I mean, I had multiple career objectives when I was younger. So pilot was one of them, and I was scared of flying, and there was various different avenues that got cut off to me. But I think that I did my degree in ancient history, so for obviously all of the transferable skills that it offers to the games industry. So I like to think that if I wasn't doing this, I'd be off recovering crystal skulls or finding temples in various states of doom or something.
Do the narrative designers come over and go, Jasper, just check this over?
It's bold to look right.
It does offer, I guess, a different perspective to some games that are released by some people. It's quite niche, I guess.
Well, you've gone from ancient world to modern world, haven't you?
Well, exactly. Pretty much, I guess expertise in every civilization, every age that's ever been. That's got to count for something.
Archaeologists will be chipping away at iPads in the ground, won't they?
And I can tell them what they are. Yeah, that's my skill set. So I think, I guess maybe something with that. I don't know what the range of career options are there, but I think that if not recruitment in the games industry, probably try and do something. I think equally creative, different, outside the box. I think that I definitely would have stepped away from the corporate side at some point, but perhaps down that avenue rather than games.
I think that corporate lifestyle is something that you don't realise doesn't suit you until you're out of it, because you are quite trapped in that world. So to get out is quite a feat in itself, I think. And that's not kind of disrespecting anybody in the white collar industries, worked in it for a very long time myself, but I trained initially to be an interior designer, but on a commercial scale, and then the economy collapsed, so that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But I was working in recruitment at the time. I did my dissertation, and I just fell into that world from there. So I think if I had a job outside the industry, I'd probably go back to that initial want and desire to design and to change.
From what you're saying, you've kind of got to flex those muscles here.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I dipped my toes back in that kind of world when we were able to move to this amazing studio. I was part of the project management team, the design team, so it was really nice to think about it from the employee's perspective of what they might want from their environment. And
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm very privileged to have been part of that, as stressful as it was. It was an incredible opportunity. But other than that, I don't really even have a hobby at home that I could be relying on as another job option. Too busy. yeah, so that's what I would do, probably design or something creative like that.
Yeah, cool. It's sort of similar, but if you could choose another role within the studio, what would you choose?
You go first for this. I'm sure you've got a good. I need to think of my idea.
Well, yeah, I could go back on my last answer, I suppose. I'm going to sound like an absolute cringe now if I say this, but I think an artist, like to create an immersive world that somebody can play in, I think is just incredible. And we have got some of the best artists I've ever met in here, so can I be part of that would be incredible. Love drawing still.
Yeah.
So, albeit I'm not at their level, I'm probably like Stickmen versus, Picasso or something. But, yeah, I think I'd just love to be part of that team that create like these imaginary worlds, and so probably away with the fairies in that way, rather than something more, strategy based. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's hard to. I mean, all the jobs seem interesting in their own way, especially from somebody from the outside, because you only kind of look at the good parts, don't you? You think, game designer, you just think of games, that's amazing. Or artist, you just draw whatever you want, that's amazing.
Don't diss my second option.
No, all fantastic options.
And then the deadlines come, you're like, oh God.
yeah, exactly. And I think also that obviously we've got a whole commercial side as well. So I think when you look at the branding, the marketing, the PR, even the franchise, right? Defining what Team17 is and how we appear and what our message is really exciting to do for a business that has the not passion behind it, has the kind of pride in its identity that we have here.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of this studio, something that immediately, I'm quite new here, I've only been here 2.5-3 months or so. Something that immediately struck me is the producers here are fantastic. I think that if I was going to narrow it down to this studio in particular, I'd love to get on the back of that. I mean, the sheer range and variety and quantity of projects that they have to balance alongside one another at any one time. We work in such an agile way with devs moving between projects all the time, week by week almost, they're shifting around. I think that, I think to take the question very literally, within this studio, what job would you like to learn to do or like to do? I think it would be an absolute masterclass in production to do it in this studio. So I think strategically, I would say in Team17 production, because I think you'd learn so much, it would be amazing.
Yeah, I think it helps with Team17 because of how long you've kind of been around, the sort of brand identity there.
Yes.
There's a lot you can do with it.
So exciting.
Yeah.
And it's so immediately recognisable, right? I mean, everyone has played Worms at some point. Like I know it's our biggest brand, right? But I mean, obviously we've got newer titles that are fantastic in their own way. But it's one of those icons that we were on a postage stamp this year or last year. Like it's such a backbone of the British industry. It's so exciting to work with.
Even my Ocado delivery driver noticed my badge the other day. He was like, "You work for Team17?" I was like, "Yeah, give me my shopping." He was like, "Oh my God, I love Worms," and I was then stood for about 10 minutes talking about like the brand and the game. So it never ends, that reach that we have to people and communities and generations. It's just mind blowing. Yeah, it really is.
And then you're questioning it when you stood on your porch, you're like, shopping.
Passing my bag.
This question always goes over really well. What's a typical day look like for you?
So the short answer is no such thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone says the same thing to you.
I underlined organised chaos.
Yeah.
Because we wear so many different hats. I know Jasper touched upon the fact that producers here have such a wide, all-encompassing role. It's very generalist. It's cradle to grave on most projects. Everybody's a little bit like that here. So I must wear about 10 different hats in any one given day. Jasper, the same. The next person, the same. Nobody has that mentality of that's not in my job description. So you just muck in and get on with it, unless obviously someone asks me to do code and then we're all in trouble. But generally speaking, no one ever questions anything. So if the door goes, someone goes and gets it. If somebody needs to replace someone in a meeting, they do it.
If a podcast needs to be recorded, you just step up and you just you get on with it. Exactly.
And I appreciate it.
But I'm very lucky personally because my role, I can be doing something really meaty like something strategy based. It could be growth plans or something like that 1 minute, and then ordering tea bags the next. It literally is chalk and cheese my day.
Yeah.
It can swing right round. But that's what keeps it exciting.
I think variety is the spice of life, right? That's the wonderful expression, and I think that exists definitely. I mean, in all roles in the games industry, no 2 days the same, no 2 hours the same. It feels sometimes, but I think that attracts the people that enjoy working here. I think that is a selling point, really. Like, I know personally, I'm the cliche of my generation that, like, I want to feel empowered and make a difference to the place I work and all these, which you should do, right? You should be proud of it. Absolutely. And somewhere like this, you can do that. You can see the direct impact you're having in lots of different areas at any one time. And yeah, you always mix it up. You always have those new people to meet with, new projects to work on. Both literally in terms of games, but also running a graduate campaign or a new like advertising campaign, or all these different things we do as well. So it's just that constant change, that constant variety. But yeah, so no typical day really exists, sadly. But that's a good thing. Yeah, for sure.
No, it is. It keeps you busy.
Keeps us very, very busy.
I'm trying to think of what is like the most random day that we've had, really, but they're all a little bit random.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think there's something that again we do really well here is like, and there is a point to this tangent, is communication, right? We're such a small, close-knit team. I'm talking about the whole studio when I say that. Your day just fills up with very reactive things, because we don't just sit at our desk all day and not speak to people. You might go over and start off saying good morning to the head of QA, and suddenly that might warrant a bunch of tasks from them shooting off from that one.
Yes.
Or so there's
very organic.
It absolutely is very agile, very organic, very fast-moving. So I think that that's why no two days are the same, because you almost can't plan your entire day, your entire week at a time, because you have to deal with those things.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things you have to pin to the diary. We have very regular management meetings, project timeline meetings, around production. Those things are the only things that are set in stone week to week, purely because that's the nature of the beast. We are still making games, so. But from a reactive support point of view, and I'm sure to a degree some of the devs as well work in a slightly more organic way, that they can flip between tasks rather than just being solely focused on one thing day in, day out, which is why we're lucky we work on multi-projects throughout the year rather than one project over years, is that no one can ever get bored. I don't think it would be possible.
They've not got the time.
They haven't got the time. Things change too quickly. Definitely keeps you on your toes. And I don't have an open diary, because
no.
I can just put bum to see and I'm called again for something else. But I love it.
Which is why I doubly appreciate this.
It's good to do.
We've had this planning for a while. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it helps as well with, obviously, show me around quickly, how sort of an open plan it is. It's like, although people are segmented into certain projects and roles, there's not really any barriers to, if you need someone, you could potentially just go get them.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We operate on a very open door policy, that no one should ever feel like no one has time for them, whether you're cross-project or not really. And where we were before was in a bit of a horseshoe shape, so it was a little bit more, you were a little bit more split, and here one of the priorities was that it was open, so that you could see everyone, you could see the activity, you could feel the energy in the space. I think that was really important when we fit it out, was that there was a flow and ebb, even when it's all heads down. There was still an opportunity to give someone a wave at the other side of the studio, or even the more secure teams like support, where HR, finance, IT and release and compliance, there's still no officers down there. Again, we're still very much part of everyone.
Yes, all part of one big team, and I think it's very flat in that sense as well. The head of studio sits out on the floor with the rest of the developers, so the tech director sits opposite his programmers. Like everyone sits within their teams.
You definitely don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely not. Which works for some places. I would never say there's right or wrong way of doing it, but I think it works really well for us here. There is that very we push that very. Everyone should be approachable. Everyone should be available. Everyone should be able to talk to anyone who needs them at any time. So it's definitely, I think, something that's done well here.
Definitely. What's been the sort of best project you've worked on? With it only being 3 months, you can say others.
Are you talking game project, or kind of a graduate scheme could be a project, or like?
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily have to be like a game project. Yeah, it can be sort of industry-wide. Sort of. Yeah, what's the kind of favourite project you've worked on so far?
Well, you because I'm new, so I need to think what the diplomatic answer is. But you should go first.
I have struggled with this because I'm not in the thick of it when it comes to development, so I understand how we work together to create a game. I understand that part, but I'm not doing that. So I can't say I've worked on a project like that, but in terms of the business, I've worked on many, and I'd hate to pick a favourite really. The Move was very good for me, but I think I'm most proud of probably the placement grad scheme, over the last 2 years it's become self-feeding, so the placement students that we take on board for their placement year come back as a returning grad when they graduate, and therefore, you know, we fill the gaps with returning employees, and every placement student that we bring in works on live projects. Their names are on credits. We take them back when they finish their studies,
That's
so
really
they
cool.
know that there's sort of job security at the end of it.
Yeah.
There's no making tea here for, you know, it's real stuff. It's, you know, they're grafting. I think we spoke about the record for placement student to work on a project was about 3 days, you know, at their own speed and within their comfort zone. And we've really nurtured the process. You know, they're fully mentored with goals and aspirations that are met throughout the 12 months that they're with us, to then return knowing that they're coming back to a place that really cares about them. And that's been validated with every single placement student that joined us last year are all returning as grads this year, and hopefully that will keep that momentum year on year until we're developing homegrown talent. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Do you partner with any universities locally specifically, or is it just sort of a wide net of like an application process?
A little bit of both. So we tend to visit the universities where we have had placement students join us from in that 1 year, and that's historical, so we've always done it in that pattern. So say if we had students from, I think this year it's been like Birmingham, De Montfort, Derby, etc. We're doing a road show at the moment, and at Derby on Tuesday in fact, so, and we take said placement student with us and they can talk about it, you know, live to their peers.
Yeah, who are better to hear from. Someone that's been through the process.
To quantify the reality of it is it's real. This is the real deal. So, and that's kind of how we grew it, and it's kind of evolving into a bit of a beast now. I think we tripled the places last year that we could take on board. So that was amazing. I think we had like 6 placement students and 8 grads or something.
All right.
Yeah.
Huge numbers, and all fantastic, all doing really, really well for us.
All extremely competent,
Yeah.
which is a good reflection on the universities that they come from, the courses that they're delivering as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But we are always happy to feed back to the uni, so we have a really good relationship in terms of any kind of black areas where they're not kind of hitting some of the functionalities that we'd want them to be at graduation.
Yeah.
And we work really well with them in that kind of relationship, so... Yeah, and I think the contribution to the culture shift as well. The last 2 years, I think it's been phenomenal. Like, I can't describe it from when I started, how it is now. It was already an incredible place to work, but the things that we're doing and rolling out in terms of the wellness engagement programmes, the retention is good, and I hope that improves even more so over the next kind of 12 to 24 months because of that. And I think promotion of our growth is really helpful. So.
See, I'm far less serious. My favourite project that you've worked on is Overcooked 2. I think it was fantastic, and that's all really good. Graduates are amazing, placements are phenomenal, but that's one of the best games I've ever played. It tested my relationship, but I think it's...
We do say we do say it's cited on the reasons for a divorce paper now. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. So I think you've given a very serious answer that I would have skirted around and just said, that was amazing, so much fun. I'm so disappointed I wasn't here for it, and it must have been so exciting.
It was very fun, very exciting. Yeah, it was a game changer, really, wasn't it? Pardon the pun.
It was, it was phenomenal. And I think a really big thing for us as well. So I think something that we don't shout about as much as we could is, that was made in-house, and we are doing a lot more in terms of, internal IPs. Obviously, we've got some very old titles which we own the IP for, but I think that more recently there's been this perception that Team17 just publishes games, and we perhaps haven't shown up about all of the things we're developing internally and the things we're doing ourselves. Overcooked 2 obviously was created entirely by the Wakefield team here.
Yeah, it was.
So it was a huge achievement for the studio, a lot of excitement here in the studio when that happens. And so I think that's why would have been part of the reason it was so exciting, is just because I think there was that real sense of, we've done this, we've been part of this. That would have been a real exciting time to be part of the studio, I think. Of course, we're releasing many other games over the next few years that will be equally exciting, and we have open vacancies if you want to be part of that. But
Pitch.
Yep.
the best project I've worked on, if I go purely down the games route as a gamer, and I appreciate this podcast is for players and creators of games, I've been very lucky that I've straddled kind of both sides, really. So I've been on the AAA side of things, and I've been on the sort of smaller mobile side of things as well.
Yeah.
And I think purely for me, I really enjoyed the smaller scale projects, just because it was the entire development studio working towards one title together. Rather than working on specific features or things like that, they just, everything start to finish, cradle to grave, was all made by this one team. So it was some titles we created for actually the launch of the Apple Arcade earlier this year. And I remember, in my past role, it was fantastic atmosphere in the studio, so much excitement, so much going on. That was a huge reason that this role appealed to me, was because it's again those smaller development cycles, those little games that everybody is a part of, everyone comes together to really help get it through the door.
I suppose the graduate recruitment side of things as well helps with showing, especially if you're sort of taking them with you, it shows like the personal development side of the business, and if depending on sort of how much you put in is equal to what you get out of it. So it's quite nice for the students to see, oh, that's where I could be.
Absolutely, like the whole kind of mentoring development schedule that they're on in there. 12 months that they're here with placement, and then the first 12 months here as a graduate. They have realistic milestones. They have a mentor, as well as their team lead, as well as a buddy system. So they're fully supported as much as is possible without being smothering, really. And I'm lucky again, that's going to be part of my remit, is to maintain their development when they come to us as a graduate. And make sure that they're getting out of it what they aspire, to get out of it, because there's no point in them just doing the same old churn like they might do at another studio and kind of being visible, very visible here. They're still accountable like everybody else, and I think that feeling of responsibility motivates them more, knowing that they're going to be on the credits of a game, potentially an award-winning game at that. I can't think of anything more spectacular as a graduate.
No, you're offering quite a lot there.
The benefits package is the same. There's no difference between starting out in your career and finishing your career here. I'm trying to kind of create something that's quite empowering as a process. But I think because we're in the early stages of really relaunching this graduate scheme, time will tell, really. Yeah. But so far, so good.
So far, we've got some absolute superstars come through it.
Absolute belters.
And I also think in terms of, you mentioning that what you put into it, you get back out of it as well, kind of speaks volumes about the studio. I mean, looking at our senior management team in the studio, we've got a really healthy balance. We've got a head of production, we've got a creative director and art director that have been here their entire careers. They've really gone through the ranks, started in QA and built their way up. Then we also have people that have come from outside of the industry, from other studios, from across the pond, or all sorts of different parts of the world that have come here as well. So there's a real variety of people. Some are role models because they've gone elsewhere and honed their craft and done some amazing things around the world and come back here because this is the studio they wanted to be a part of. And other ones have been here their entire career. They've grown with it. They've been through all those games that everyone remembers playing 20 years ago, however long it was. They've seen all of them, every iteration of every game we've made. And I think that's important to have as well. I think having those almost like figureheads or role models to look up to kind of appreciate that there is a career here for people, there is that development, there is that that ability to climb through the ranks and really become a person of a person of real weighting in the studio. I think is nice to see for people.
Yeah, definitely.
It's humbling, definitely. And again, it's not a place of massive ego either. Like, you wouldn't just know by walking down that there was somebody that had been here 27 years,
Yeah.
And I think they're the ones that are really good at bringing in the grads and the placement students under their wing, because they can teach them how they've also done it, as well as how the universities are teaching them, and they can learn from each other, because the grads don't just come here to learn, they come here to teach us too. There's new tools, there's new softwares, there's new ways of working that people who have worked here for 20 years might not know of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it is a two-way street, really.
Yeah, I suppose they've got no preconceived notions of, that can't be done.
Absolutely.
Why?
That inquisitive nature of they've not been knocked down, right? So they absolutely just go for it. They ask all the questions. They really push things. And also, sometimes when they're getting shown by a mentor or a buddy or a senior, this is how we do this. Sometimes it's just, why don't you just use this tool? Why don't you just do this thing instead? And it shaves entire days off development plans sometimes when somebody can just bring that idea to the table. So absolutely, there's huge value in graduates and people at that level coming in here, because they can teach us so much. They bring those fresh methodologies and ways of working with them.
Just energy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they don't need caffeine either for that energy, which blows my mind.
Say what?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jasper. it's undeniable what kind of, I don't know, fresh perspective, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
That younger talent bring in. Yeah, it's incredible. And very exciting for us as well that we get first dibs on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as a kind of overview, what is the history of Team 17?
Well, I mean, I'll keep it brief if I can, because I think there's a huge history to us. I mean, 30 years in the industry, there's going to be a lot that's gone on.
It's older than you are, Jasper.
That's irrelevant. Yeah, so we've started in 1990, so actually it's 30 years anniversary this year. That's an exciting time.
December, yeah.
December, no less.
Mhm.
And it actually started through that was when there was a merger between two other companies. There was a publisher called 17-Bit Software, British publisher, and then there was a Swedish developer, Team7. So bash those two things together, you get Team17.
Yep.
30 years on, all going pretty good. Our CEO, Debbie Bestwick, has been with us every step of the way. She's still CEO of the business. She's absolutely phenomenal leader, let alone woman in games. She's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
She's truly inspirational. And I mean, over those 30 years, I think the back catalogue speaks for itself. I think we've achieved over 100 titles now. I think it's...
Yeah, we tipped over 100 in 2019, so obviously with our current forthcoming stuff,
massively exceed that. Yeah, there's a huge range of games behind us. Obviously, there's ones everyone's heard of. Worms is going to be a huge one, and Alien Breed was enormous, and all the subsequent sequels and variations of that. But also, I think that the model of Team 17, there's the two different sides to it. So there's the traditional game developer, where we have an idea for a game, we make the game, we sell the game, people play the game. But the other one is this almost like talent scouting way of working. So we've got a product acquisition team that will work with indie developers. We'll look at interesting game ideas from everything from university students to seasoned veterans that are starting up a little business, and we'll work with them and we partner with them, offer them support, whether that be full end-to-end development support, from production planning all the way through to release, whether it just be advertising and marketing at the end of the process, whether it be specific, they just need technical support or art resource or something like that, and that's something that has always existed as part of the model as well. So I think that for 30 years there's always been that kind of 50-50 split of doing our own stuff, but also helping develop that indie model that often doesn't get the same attention and love from other publishers to the same degree. So I guess that's the main thing. 30 years, historically always been based out of sort of one location. Obviously Nottingham was acquired recent in Team 17 terms, down in Nottingham for to house the marketing staff, the branding, the sales, the commercial side, and obviously the most recent bit of history, we've now branched into Manchester, which is exciting. So yes, I guess headlines: 30 years, over 100 titles, and some of them
three counties.
Games. Over three counties.
Yeah. I know on the walk around we mentioned that you've got sort of a regular roster of people that come in and play test. Do you sort of get actively involved in the community of gamers that Team 17 have?
I don't think either of us do. We have a community team, which is ever growing.
Yes.
Because our fan base is ever growing. It spans globally. It never sleeps. And even just on Tuesday, I witnessed, a live stream that we were hosting to our, community, and just that interaction between the two worlds. It's strong, and it's as strong as ever. I can't massively comment on it because I'm not in that world, but you had a few things that you...
Yeah, I think that I like to believe I believe as a gamer, I like to believe as an employee of Team 17 that we are a very humble company. We're very grateful to our fan base, very grateful to our fans for the support they show for the games, and I like to think that's reflected back as well. So as Viki says, when we do our live streams and our community outreach and things like that, it's always when we will answer questions live on air from our communities, and we'll speak to them. There was a creative services manager on Tuesday, I think in the stream you're talking about, was talking about how he got into the games industry and his video editing background and all his whole journey and things like that, because somebody asked him on the chat. So it's something that we do. We're not above speaking to our fans. They're the reason that we can do what we love doing, because they buy the games, because they support us, and things like when we go to events and stuff as well. So EGX last year of the Onion King was there as well, and he was meeting with fans and having photos taken, and really getting to know people. We go to all these events. We don't go with the we don't go with the mindset of let's flog a bunch of games and some merchandise and make a quick buck here. Like it is, let's go and engage with our fans. Let's go and take people who can who can really speak to them, and take some of our devs as well, so they can they can speak to our fans about how they created the artwork for these amazing games, or things like that. So I like to believe that that humble nature hasn't disappeared, even though we are scaling up and getting bigger and bigger. I think it's been a huge focus to make sure that we maintain that, because I think it really shows in how we work with our community, or how we engage with our community.
Yeah, it seemed quite approachable. It's not like a closed booth that you need to be on a list for at Comic-Con or something like that.
This is it, yeah. It's everyone go in, have a go, play some of the games, take part, chat to people. Yeah, it's a very... I think as well, that's probably partly down to the nature of the games that we release. Like, they're very sort of... a lot of them are very casual and cooperative and like easy games to sort of jump in with some mates and have a little laugh with. So I think that helps at these sorts of events, because it is just more of like that, everyone come around and have a little game, rather than these kind of like 45-minute demos that you sometimes get for larger titles, which are fantastic in their own right. But I think in terms of that sense of get everyone in together, I think our titles, we're very fortunate they work really well for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it leans more into sort of a collaborative nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How would you describe the culture at Team17? I know you've kind of mentioned it already with openness and easy to collaborate with people within the office and fans as well.
Yeah, I think the culture should and does run deeper than that though. Like, try to ensure that we evolve the culture as we grow. We made the acquisition most recently in Manchester, and they already are in the fold. They are Teamsters just like everybody else. And I think if you embed that value and that culture from before someone starts, I think that's really important. There's been a massive culture shift, as I said before, from 2 years ago when I started to now. We just get lighter and brighter as time goes on. And the quicker we grow, the quicker I have to think of initiatives to make sure that everybody is developed right, working with the heads of department and the head of HR, and making sure that we understand people's aspirations as we grow and how they want to grow with us.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of more rigorous approach to it and more serious stuff. But then we have what we call a director of fun here, the office manager, who creates all the fun events around releases, DLC launches, like early access kind of things that we want to promote and celebrate. So she will arrange things around that. So there's always something fun going on. I rolled out a wellness engagement programme last year, which I'm just about to roll out 2020's version, where it looks after mental health, physical well-being, financial well-being, and just morale in general, to make sure that there's never kind of a trough to the peak. So there's literally not a month goes by where there's not something. And this year I've focused very much on development, so there'll be lots of skills workshops so people can learn code, how design software works, how artists create characters, so that we all get to know how everybody does their job. It's just opening that transparency. We're very loving, aren't we, I think?
Yeah, of course.
Even though there's lots of banter. We work so hard, we have to try to encourage people to laugh every day. Yeah, I think the recognition programmes obviously take a lot of time to embed in businesses that haven't had things like that before. We grew very quickly from 2 years ago to now, and it's nice to know that staff know that they're not forgotten as we grow.
Yeah.
I still can walk around this building and name every single person.
That's good.
I don't think many companies can do that. So that I'm very proud of, that everybody's still an individual and not a cog in the system. Yeah.
I'd say as I'm officially a new starter as well to Team17. I'm still within my first 3 months. So I think the things that I've immediately noticed, I can't talk about the whole historic culture of the studio and the ever-changing shift that Viki's been working on over the last couple of years as we've grown. But I think something that was immediately, I think 2 things that really stood out to me was, one of them was, again, I don't use the word passion because everyone uses the word passion, and we've already said we shouldn't. But almost, I guess, that interest in what's happening, that feeling of camaraderie behind projects. I think that everyone, designers, programmers, producers, everyone is so invested in every project in the studio. I think that in any working place anywhere, it's very easy to get focused on your workload, what you're working on, what's happening with you, and perhaps your immediate team. So the equivalent in the games would be, you and your project or your feature or what's happening with you at the moment. But I think something that exists here is people are always, seeing what other people are working on, perhaps taking part in stand-ups and scrums for other projects, whether it be production or design or something else. They're often, lending ideas to one another and shifting between projects as well. And I think that's because there's just that interest or that desire to want to see everyone do well and want to see the studio do well and that all the projects do well. I think that we're such a such a small community of gamers here within the studio that we just want to make really fun games that people enjoy playing, and you don't have to directly have worked on that game as a producer or an artist or a programmer. It could be your friend who sits over there, but you still want that to be a fun game for people to enjoy playing, and if you've got an idea, you will pass that over, you will speak to them about it. That's something that I think is fantastic to see. Like, it's just so, despite the number of projects that work on any one time, it still feels like one big team. It still feels like we're all working towards the greater good, or that goal, which just in our case, that goal is however many games at once, which is ridiculous. And the other thing is teamwork as well. I've noticed in my time already, like, people here cannot do enough for you. The number of times it's a silly little thing, but you'll have a meeting with somebody and come up with some action points, and like everyone just volunteers to do them all for you, and it's like, oh no, guys, like, this is my job, like, I will do these things, don't worry. But people are just so happy to work with you, and they just want to make sure that you feel, everyone's comfortable doing what they need to do, and nothing is too much to ask from somebody here. Which is a wonderful culture to have. Really nice to feel, I think, coming in as I say, a new starter. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. And with how the company's evolved in the last sort of 2 years, especially like with new initiatives, going back to the people that have been here 20 plus years, I was like, do you know how they've sort of viewed the changes?
Yeah, I mean, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the culture beforehand. It was just we were a lot smaller then, and probably not big enough to have initiatives and programs and things like that, or else we wouldn't have had any employees, if there wasn't any culture at all. And I think it's just that major shift in growth. You've kind of got to quickly scramble together and make sure everybody doesn't feel the impact of that in a negative way. And that's kind of what I meant by a culture shift, is that we've had to go with emotion. There's been no real ability to forecast that growth and plan ahead. And we have something called the tech team, which I founded a year and a half ago, which is the Teamster Engagement Committee. So it's a few people from every discipline who want to be the voice of the employees, really. It's a way that we can all speak in an open, honest environment, closed, of course, with no management, so people feel safe to talk about issues they might have, engagement-wise, morale-wise. It can be quite serious stuff, but it can be something quite light, like they want a barbecue, or so. And we listen to every single thing, and we feed back to them what we can and can't do. So again, we even tell them what's not possible, so that they're not always thinking that they're talking to a closed door. We're very transparent.
No, that's good. I think it's nice to understand, even if something can't be done, it's quite nice to have felt heard and understand the reasons why it can't be done.
Yeah, and I think that is so important in any working environment, is that you feel like you have a voice. So that was one really important thing that I think the tech team has brought to the company more recently, is that your concerns or suggestions are validated in some way, without kind of feeling like you don't ask, So that's, again, something that I'm quite proud of. The guys and the girls out there as well, because they've really driven it, and a lot of the improvements that have happened have come off the back of them. I think everybody needs to be thankful for that and for their encouragement.
Definitely. And I think sort of your question about how have people found the shift in culture, the change in culture, I think it has been challenging forever. I mean, I'm sure we all know the motivations or the interest for joining a studio of 20 people are different to the reasons for wanting to join a studio of 200 people. And we've had to take those people that want to join a small studio of 20, 30, 40 people and keep them and retain them as we scale up to be 200 seats, 200 people, things like that. And we've done that. Like I say, we've got people that have been here for life and gone through the ranks within the business. And that's something that it's going to be challenging for anyone, because it's that ever-shifting focus and, I guess, almost nature of what the business you work for is going to be. But it's been done fantastically. I mean, there's people here that have been here for the entirety of that 15, 20, 25 year period that they will joke about, the culture here shifts every 6 months. There's always something new around the corner, always something happening. But I think they enjoy that. I think they like it. It's always been managed well. It's always been communicated well. It's always been people understand why it's happening and what's going to happen. And it seems by and large it's always been positive changes, right? It's always been, now we're going to work on more projects. We're going to work more on our own IPs. We're going to start expanding into different locations and start specialising. So it's always been good reasons for that culture to shift. But it's still been, I think, had to be very careful to manage that, to make sure that we didn't put off our original employees because of how we were changing.
It's very important that I take stock actually of what they want, and hence why I founded such a team or committee, was that anybody, whether you'd been here as a placement student, 2 weeks, 5 years, 25 years, and there literally is somebody from every avenue that are in that group, and they're not shy at saying what's right or wrong for them. And that's why we've learned massively how to compromise. So a lot of the things that have come off the back of these, little shifts in the culture have been off the back of the wants and needs of everyone.
Yeah.
But on a compromise, because you can't please everybody. But I think it's great. But I'm going to be biased.
Well, as am I. I've got a got a vested interest in this. So, yeah.
If you were to compare us against AAA, you can't, because we're not that size.
Yeah.
And I said something really cheesy earlier, but like, we're small enough to still care, but big enough to create such amazing award-winning games. Like, our actual headcount is very small compared to what we actually put out there into the world.
Yeah.
Yet we don't have crunch. So what we're doing it right.
Yeah, you must be.
There's days I can go home at 4:30. There's days where I can work from home. Like, the flexibility and the way we offer, like the job is a lifestyle choice, yes, because it's games and it's very immersive, but we're still allowing staff to still be themselves, be that individual person without the game. And we have charity days and anything, so there's another outlet for them. So that's been really important, and I think well received.
I think so. Yeah, I think that. I think you touched on a good point, that the whole big enough to be taken seriously as a games distributor, a games publisher, but small enough that we can still be, very personal with our staff and get to know them. That family feel, I think, is something that definitely exists here, and the number of people that work on specific projects as well. I think the idea of like packing a punch and being able to create amazing things. Like, if you knew the number of devs that worked on Overcooked 2, for example, like, I think most people would fall out of their chair. It's unbelievable. Like, the size of that team compared to how huge that game was, how well received it was, staggering. And I always use the expression when I'm speaking to people that want to join us as like professionally indie, is the phrase I like to use, because I think that's what we do like so well. We do have that indie feel, that flexibility, that freedom. Everybody knows everybody, and very small agile teams, but we do it in a professional way. Like, we're a company that's worth £500 million now, and we've existed for 30 years and have so much content out there that we really, I think, manage that balance nicely.
I think what's exciting is it feels like it's only just begun. So like,
Always.
I feel like we're at the, I know, but I feel like we're at the start of a completely new generation of Team17. In the fact of what we know we're working on, kind of how we're perceived externally. It's very, very exciting. And as long as we can empower and ensure that passion never dies out there, and I don't care if I've said it because I mean it, is, just listening to them, listening to the fans, listening to the devs, listening to, the external devs that want to work with us. It's just about being open and honest, and there's two values that are kind of like ghost values, but all companies should have that, because without that, there's just no integrity left.
No, I suppose it definitely helps that it still sort of feels, like you say, at the beginning of a new era, it still kind of feels fresh. Despite the fact it's like 30 years going, it's still quite new and exciting, in a way.
I mean, absolutely. The things we've got going now, like we're larger than we've ever been before. We've got more locations than ever before, and we're still, creating new games, doing new things, developing new IPs. We just already mentioned Manchester, the new location we just acquired. There seems to be so much that's round the corner, and I think that'll always be. I think there'll always be so much around the corner, which is really exciting. It's really fantastic, to always have that kind of anticipation and that kind of excitement for what comes next. I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. We've obviously covered graduates. Don't know whether there's anything more you wanted to say about graduates, but sort of typical hiring process, what does that generally look like? Is there tests? Do you give people sort of trial periods, or does it really depend on the role?
Obviously, Viki does a phenomenal job of managing the graduate and placement process, so I can't speak volumes about that. But I think in terms of all the other roles, it depends on the role themselves to some degree. So I think that there's certain roles that I think there's almost industry standard set stages of those processes. So art tests, right, is not something that's new to this industry. No. Technical tests, coding tests, these are all things that exist. So we do have those. But I think that what we do really nicely here is we make it almost bespoke to the people, so design tests, art tests, things like that. What we have found in the past is our art director will, look through applicants, look through portfolios, and if there's, if there's perhaps a gap in that person's knowledge that's not presented on their portfolio, then, we will make a test for them based on that. So it's not just the same generic thing sent out to every person, because that, different people have different skill sets, and it doesn't always you know, we can identify this person's fantastic at props and fantastic at, you know, space or placement. So, you know, let's give them a test on lighting. Whereas if there's somebody else that's fantastic at lighting, you know, you do the opposite, because else you're playing to only one type of person's skill set. If the test is always create a prop, then it's the prop artist that will always, you know, you're not giving this equal opportunity to everybody else. So it's very bespoke tests, but it's also to some degree personalised to the candidate. I think that we offer quite a personalised recruitment process here. You know, it's very flexible. We work with people to make sure that we can do things that work for them. There's always going to be, you know, set stages. I think that, you know, art, for example, there's more often not going to be a test, and there's always going to be an on-site interview for that role. Other things, you know, Skype interviews or other stages, they might come and go depending on whatever, right? Sometimes a test submission might warrant a quick Skype call to talk about it, or a portfolio. You might have some questions you want to cover with the candidate. But I think that, tests is fairly regular across the board. I mean, some roles, you know, things like production, you don't really test for, but anything creative, there would generally be some sort of test for. And then, on-site interviews. Every role in the business would have an on-site interview. I think it's really important. And it's a two-way thing as well. Obviously, we want to meet people and get to know them and feel that connection. We're really proud of the people we have here and how they work within the team we have, and so we want people that can buy into that ethos and that way of working. But similarly, people need to make sure that they like us and they get on with us. You know, it's
double buy-in.
It 100% is. Well. I mean, while we think the studio is fantastic and that's why we all work here, someone might, you've got to spend 35 hours a week in this building. If you come here and you just can't get on with the location, the people, the space, whatever it is, you need to know that before you, especially in this industry, people are very mobile, so you often hire from around the UK or around the EU or even further afield. It might be that you're moving somebody over from the States with their family and children, and you don't want to do that if they're not going to be happy here. You need to make sure that they're comfortable with where they're going. So I think that, I'd say for art roles, design roles and programming roles, we would generally have a test, and probably, the standard process would be a test, a Skype interview and an on-site interview. The order of the test and the Skype interview might vary, again, depending on the candidate's needs. And, the duration of that is always flexible as well. So we're never going to be one of these companies that says, we send you this test on the Friday. If it's not in my inbox by Monday at 9 o'clock, you failed or anything like that, because that you have to work with people. You don't know what their situation is. Someone who's got 16 kids hasn't got the same availability at a weekend, for example, as someone who's got nothing else to do with those 2 days. So we make sure that we communicate with our candidates, we speak to them, we personalise it to make sure that they're comfortable and they're coming through the process at the way that suits them. Because I think that's representative of the way we work. Like we engage with our employees as well as we do with our candidates to make sure that they're happy and they can work in the way they want to. So that really starts from the moment you apply for a job. I would like to think.
Well, that's good. Being more dynamic to it, sort of individuals' needs, means you don't miss out on good talent just because they're not free from 5 p.m. on Friday.
This is it, exactly. Well, generally you find that, this is broad strokes, but often people that we're looking to employ, they're coming from other studios or other companies or other jobs, and not everyone's got the freedom to be able to make a phone call any point of the day or speak to us at our leisure. So, we are flexible with them. Sometimes we'll stay late to speak to people or phone them over the lunchtime or, even weekends sometimes to make sure that we can get through to them at a time that suits them. So, yes.
They're not always on the same time zone either.
No.
And the British summertime thing always throws everybody.
And me.
We offer a very palliative service, I think. Not palliative, pastoral service, you can cut that bit out. Where they could be a future employee, you have to work with them on the same sort of basis. So if, for instance, they would have trouble getting from Europe to here, we help them coordinate that. So there's all that kind of assistance throughout their interview process, but on their onboarding process as well, it's just slick. So if we offer a relocation package, so we help them with that, we offer them insights into the local areas, and we really delve deep in knowing what it is that they need, what their motivating factors are. So if they are uprooting a family, that the family's catered for in the local area, that they understand what they're coming to. And we do that for each site. So we've got a specific plan that we roll out from Nottingham and one from Wakefield, and there'll be one from Manchester. And I think knowing that we understand that people are humans and they have lives and worries and strains, that we've thought of everything already for them, and we've answered those questions already before they've asked them. I think that's very reassuring from them, that we do treat them as humans and not as just staff.
Yeah, because I can imagine, although it might be a job they really want to do, the deciding factors are going to be framed around their family's needs of nearest school, commute,
We spent a lot of time mapping out the schools and the cost of living, the housing market. We've thought of it all, really. So there's not really a stone turned that they should have a worry about.
Yeah, definitely not.
Hopefully not.
No.
And like, kind of, I think you were touching on, it's the duty of any employer, really. I mean, obviously, you coming from Aardvark Swift, you know that how candidate-led the market is at the moment. So we're trying to hire the best people in the industry, right, for the roles that we have here, because it's so varied. We need people that have got that knowledge in every area that come from, we've hired from some of the biggest publishers in the world, and they're doing fantastic here. But because we're often fighting with other studios for the same people, because those candidates have got so many opportunities, it's those little things that really make the difference. When you've got 3 or 4 studios that are making you offers, and they're all got exciting projects in interesting locations with wonderful managers and good pay, good bonus options, and all the rest of it. Sometimes it is the little things that come down to it. It's ones where you get that good feeling from, that gut reaction from, and it's the ones where they kind of, I like to believe that we're one of the studios that just gives you that feel-good factor. We like to make sure that you are treated with the level of respect that you deserve to be as someone who's in demand, or someone who's going to have multiple options. I think it goes back to that, not being humble, but kind of in a different way. But I think it goes back to the point I made before about we don't sort of have that perception that we're better than that, or that we shouldn't be treating people in that way. It's just being nice, just being decent people, I think.
And understanding that we've all been there before. We've all had to make that jump into the unknown, and every company could say whatever they wanted to win you over, but the proof's in the pudding. And if you've already gone above and beyond throughout those 2 processes, it's very unlikely that it's a bit of a sell. And we have, employee videos of everybody kind of going, actually, it is what we say it is. And, external face, I think, and voice, again, goes to bolster that truth. Is that we are just a great big family, really.
Especially at a time when changing career is probably going to be the most stressful time.
It's very stressful,
Well, especially when it's combined with changing where you live, bringing a family, and all the rest of it. Like it's so many moving parts so often in this that it's not.
No, you don't want to be of the mind, I don't know what I'm walking into, and I don't know where I'm going to live.
Absolutely, terrifying prospect. People need to be supported to make sure they're comfortable, they know what they're going into. It's that surety that people are looking for, I think. 100%.
So you can if you want to debut some information about future games, but without going into specifics, what does the future hold for Team17 in 2020 and beyond?
So much.
Question. Well, no, we can't talk about what's in the pipeline.
Can't talk about specific games. We're bigger than ever, and that we're working on more than ever before. So much variety going on in that studio. I'm sure that we're going to have to continue to expand. I think we've just got a new location in Manchester. We're going to want to fill that up really soon, and it'd be amazing if that expansion continued as well. We're currently in 3 counties. Why not say 4, 5, 6, 7 in the future? It'd be amazing to see.
International.
Let's go somewhere in sunny Spain or something. That'd be lovely.
You two are going to be so busy.
But I think on the game side, there's so much going on in the studio. So we're working on more titles than ever before. We're working more on our own IPs as well as external stuff. So there's just a huge. I think we really are at a bit of I don't know. Like we say, we're always 6 months away from something amazing. Always just around the corner from the next big exciting thing. I think that's absolutely felt at the moment. There's been a real kind of transition over the last 18 months. We obviously floated last year. And
that was a big deal.
It's a huge change for the company, I think. And we've recently brought some really exciting people on board as well. So a new studio head who's ex Activision, ex EA, ex Ubisoft. We've got a new head of publishing down in Nottingham. We've got some really senior people into the studio now to help kind of catapult us to that next level, and basically to make sure that we can maintain the momentum that I guess we've been building up over the last 30 years. So I guess more games than ever before, more studios than before, more staff than before, more people, more events, like everything. It's just absolute expansion is the plan moving forward.
It sounds absolutely insane when you say it out loud how much is going on at once, but I don't know any different. So to me this is quite normal. I don't know how Jasper feels a few weeks in, but
he hasn't said terrified, so I think you're alright.
I said it, I might look at it, but no.
Genuinely, I am excited all of the time. Like, I don't ever go home and think, I'm not anxious about, where we're going or what we're doing. And I think anybody, because we're also accountable for how this company runs day to day, whoever you are, you impact every day that you work here. It's natural to think, what's happening next? But we all just lead each other, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
We're always briefing, we're always explaining, and the fact that we're all shareholders as well, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? That we we have that belief in our own brand.
Kind of personal investment, isn't it?
Well, you are invested, and it's something that we've spoke about earlier in the interview, was that incredible investment that everybody chucks in every day because they want to be here. But the fact that they are part of Team17 now because of the IPO, it validates their value to us.
Yeah.
You know, we love every single person that walks in and out of that door, and I hope that they believe that, because I do, but I'm a big softie.
That is true, yeah.
They called me woke the other day and I had to Google it.
That in itself is not, right? Yeah, I think, so it's hard to say. We almost can't put a figure in it. I can't say how big we're going to get. I can't gonna say how far reaching we're going to get. I can't say how many game projects it's going to be, just because it's always going upwards. It's always increasing. So what today might be, 50 vacancies over the course of this year, in 2 weeks' time it'll be 60, it'll be 70, it'll be so much more happening. So it's really exciting to see that change, that transition. But so definitely upwards, but we're still working out exactly at what speed we're going upwards, but it's pretty fast already. But exciting times.
Crazy expansion. How crazy, we're not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've probably come to the end of my line of interrogation. Is there anything you two wanted to promote?
It's the final few weeks at the moment for the placement applications. So we've got some placement program opportunities open to people doing sandwich courses or graduates who want to come on board. Initially it's for 12 months, so it fits either of those people, but what happens after that obviously depends on all sorts. The growth risk going through hopefully positive things, but like I say, we want to make sure we cater it to people that are in that sandwich course as well. So that's currently due to close, rough date of mid-March, but it's it's a bit agile, so yes, a couple of weeks left on that. And also Manchester is now open, so we're looking for people in Manchester. So there's all sorts of vacancies there. So I don't know, reach out to me on LinkedIn or have a look at our careers page, because that's somewhere we're definitely expanding. Definitely. Those are probably the two main shout outs, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say the placement program's in its kind of latter weeks now, so it's incredibly competitive. I've had hundreds of applications.
That's a full-time job in itself.
Very, very used to it. So I will be kind of running through that process with them from start to finish. It does include a test, but it's just a short, brief coding quiz, which only tells us where they're at. It's not a pass or fail. And I would say 90% of applicants who complete the test get a face-to-face interview. And after that face-to-face interview, that is it. So we don't mess about. It's very straightforward. So if you're interested, click on that button.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening to the Aardvark Swift podcast. This episode was recorded on site at Team17 and was hosted, produced and edited by me, James Bowers. If you have any comments or suggestions for the podcast, or if you'd like to feature on an episode, please email james.b@aswift.com. That's james.b@aswift.com. Special thanks go to Viki, Freeman and Jasper for this episode. If you're looking to break into video games or make a transition to a new role, be sure to check out the Aardvark Swift website at aswift.com. We have hundreds of industry vacancies at studios at home and abroad. Be sure to follow us across social media for the latest news and roles. You can find us on Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook under our handle @Aardvark Swift. We also have a behind the scenes Instagram account where you can see what we get up to and what it's like to work here at Life Aardvark. The music in this episode is from Incomputech by Kevin MacLeod. To learn more, you can visit incomputech.com.